Morning and welcome to good morning and welcome to everyone. May I welcome officials from the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, Ministry of Finance, as well as officials of Caroni 1975 Limited, as well as members of the media and members of the public. First of all, my name is Wade Mark, and I'm the chairman of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee. May I inform members, officials who are here, the mandate of this committee. The mandate of this committee is to consider and report to the House on the audited accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements of all enterprises that are owned or controlled by or on behalf of the state, for the Auditor General's report, to consider, that is, the Auditor General's report on any such accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements, and to consider and report to the House on whether policy is being carried out efficiently, effectively, and economically, and whether expenditure conforms to the authority which governs it. The purpose of our meeting today is to examine the audited accounts, balance sheets, and other financial statements of Caroni 1975 Limited for the period 2010 to 2018. The committee is desirous of hearing the challenges being faced by the key stakeholders at the Caroni 1975 Limited in an attempt to determine some of the possible solutions to these challenges. The role of our committee is to help the Caroni 1975 Limited improve its delivery of services in an efficient, effective, and economic manner. May I also advise that this meeting is being held in public and is being broadcast live on the Parliament's Channel 11 and Radio 105.5 FM and the Parliament's YouTube channel, ParlView. Viewers and listeners can send their comments related to today's topic via email, that is parl101@ttparliament.org, facebook.com/ttparliament, Twitter @ttparliament. I will now take this opportunity to invite my colleagues to introduce themselves, to be followed by officials from the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, and of course, Caroni 1975 Limited.
Jim Gopi Singh, Vice Chairman.
And we have someone who is going to join us. No, Diana, she's coming in a short while. We have another member who will join us very shortly. May I also take this opportunity to invite the officials from the Ministry Investments Division to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members and members of the viewers of the various Parliament channels. My name is Michelle Durham Kisoon, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yvette Bob. I'm the Acting Director of Social and Economic Transformation, Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, everyone. Ryan Maharaj, Senior Business Analyst, Acting Investments Division, Ministry of Finance.
Good morning, Sally Ramisa, Business Analyst, Investment Division, Ministry of Finance.
Officials of Caroni, please.
Good morning, I'm Cherry Hospitalis, Chairman of Caroni.
Good morning, I'm Sharon Mohammed, Director of Caroni.
Good morning. My name is Lionel Wayne Dishing, the CEO of Caroni.
Good morning. My name is Russell Bolan, Team Leader, Land Information Delivery and Monitoring, Caroni 975 Limited.
Good morning. My name is Margaret Tufts, Team Leader Finance, Caroni Limited.
And in the back of you,
Good morning, my name is Alicia Hussein, Caroni.
yes.
Good morning. My name is Slila Bessie Hussein, Caroni.
Good morning, my name is Sandy Salamath, Caroni, 1975 Limited.
Thank you so very much. May I at this time invite the Permanent Secretary Acting in the Ministry of Finance to make a few brief opening comments. Madam Permanent Secretary.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Caroni 1975 Limited is presently a non-operational company. And we're here this morning because the company has presented its up-to-date financial accounts. For those of us who are not aware, companies, state-owned enterprises that are in non-operational mode fall under the purview of the Ministry of Finance. The ministry is mindful of the sensitive nature of this winding up. But we try to monitor the process, ongoing as it is, to ensure that we move towards closure as smoothly and as delicately as possible. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, on behalf of Caroni 1975 Limited, we indeed deem it a privilege to share with this committee our audited financial statements and balance sheets for the financial years ended June 30th, 2010 to June 30th, 2018. As you're aware, and as the Permanent Secretary just advised us, Caroni was closed in August 2003, subsequent to a July 2003 industrial court order executed between Caroni and the All Trinidad Sugar and General Workers Trade Union, now known as the All Trinidad General Workers Trade Union. In this framework, Caroni became a non-operational company, reporting to the Ministry of Finance, comprising a board of directors comprising public sector officials. For policy purposes, it fell under the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries. And for operational efficiency and timely decision-making, a ministerial committee was appointed to provide guidance to Caroni on all matters under its remit. The mandate of the board was clear and precise. It was defined in the July 2003 Industrial Court Order, delivered to the former daily paid employees of Caroni those commitments which were outlined in the Voluntary Separation of Employment Plan of February 2003. This VSEP, the Voluntary Separation of Employment Plan, was issued to 7,866 daily paid employees. Pay all monetary benefits under the VSEP. Provide counseling and financial advisory services. reconcile pension records with National Insurance Board data, manage the various training programs, secure stable and reliable pensions, auction the rolling stock to the former daily paid employees, and provide the daily paid employees with residential service lots and 2-acre-sized agricultural plots. The mandate of Caroni was expanded to include monthly-paid employees by the government. Provide to the 1154 monthly-paid employees the commitments made in the February 2003 VSEP. It was identical to the daily paid commitments, except that for those employees who occupied bungalows, the 142 bungalows, as a condition of the service, they were given the option to purchase those bungalows on a fixed formula. As a result, our employee base was 9,020. 18 of those decided not to take VSEP, but to avail themselves of a termination option. And 5 did not qualify. So our operational database was 8,997. I wish to emphasize, therefore, that in delivering these commitments, the majority fell under the remit of Caroni, under its control. However, 2 major deliverables, the delivery of residential service lots and the delivery of the 2-acre-sized agricultural plots, were under the control of other agencies. The Estate Management and Business Development Company, under the Caroni 1975 Limited and Orange Grove National Company Limited Divestment Act, was responsible for infrastructurally developing the 30 residential estates for the benefit of the 8855 beneficiaries. EMBD undertook to provide Caroni with 11,911 residential lots. In order to avoid the protracted period within which leases were managed through the public sector, the government agreed to establish head leases between Caroni and the government for, if I recall, 17 estates, so that Caroni was able to use private sector attorneys to allow these leases to be issued. On behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, Lands and Fisheries, the EMBD was responsible for developing the 17 agricultural estates with 7,246 2-acre-sized agricultural plots. These were the number of individuals, or the number of Caroni employees who made applications for these lots. The 2-acre-sized lots were to be delivered by 2 entities. Although Caroni was the responsible agency, the government assigned the Commission of State Lands to deliver lots on 10 estates, with the AMP to deliver lots on 7 estates. So, in a nutshell, Caroni had to deliver these commitments, controlling several of them, including the payment of monetary benefits, counseling, financial services, national insurance issues, pensionable issues, but leaving the AMBD to deliver to Caroni those lots which were required for Caroni to discharge its responsibility. So what has happened since then? we have completed work. We paid all the monetary benefits. We completed work on securing the pensions. There were 9,616 pensioners now in place to whom Caroni is, to whom are being paid pensions by insurance companies. We organize and manage 4,485 courses, which were attended by former Caroni employees as part of their retraining exercises. Out of those programs, we had 2,520 graduates. And many of these graduates brought along their families, their spouses, or their children to take part in the courses also. We were required to sell the rolling equipment, which were left with Caroni at closure, and we sold 1,156 workable pieces of equipment to former employees. This was the requirement. We sold it to them through 15 auctions. The others we transferred to government ministries until we had other offsetting arrangements. When I mentioned the residential, the agricultural and residential lots, let me deal with residential. 7246 applied for 2-acre size plots. Some were under the control of the EMBD, some were under the control of the Commission of State Lands. But Caroni had to keep a monitoring view of the whole process. We, in 2016, we undertook a project to determine how many of these leases were actually delivered. It was a difficult exercise, but finally, we accessed the records of the Legal Affairs, Ministry of Legal Affairs, the Registrar General Office, and we discovered 6,005 leases were prepared, were executed, and registered. We had 7246. So essentially, what happened to us is that we, despite a communication program which utilized correspondence to the homes of the employees, pull out some newspapers with names, we cannot locate 1,114. If they come now, they will get their lease. But we cannot locate them, but as they turn up, their leases will be delivered. In the case of the residential leases, we were delivered by the EMBD, we were delivered to us by the EMBD, 16 estates, on which we placed 4,274 employees. 4,274 leases we delivered. On those 16 estates, 230 have not yet approached Caroni to complete the application process. And this is, again, despite a comprehensive communication program. So we have, our target is 8855, 4,274 delivered on the 16 estates. There are 4,351 on the residual 14 estates, but those estates are now in litigation with the EMBD, and therefore, Caroni is at the delivery process is at a standstill. So we think that we have discharged our responsibility with financing from the government, and we have done so in a transparent and accountable manner, as evidenced by our up-to-date audited financial statements. And let me say finally, the 76,600 acres which transferred to government through the Vesting Act of 2006. Caroni does not own any land. We have under our ownership now the head leases for 17 estates. That is the extent of our ownership. All assets on Caroni, the lands, the bungalows are owned by the state. And we would get guidance from the state as to how to proceed with the assets. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and we're ready to answer any questions you might have.
Very much for that comprehensive statement dealing with the current reality facing Caroni. Now, you spoke about assets, and you said that assets are currently owned by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. Would you want to share with us what has happened to the rum stock of Caroni 1975 Limited as it relates to that asset? What is the status of the rum stock?
Well, when Caroni was closed, government formed two companies. Rum Distillers of Company, which was closed in 2010, and I think this is a matter for Rum Distillers Company, which was closed in 2010, and the Sugar Manufacturing Company Limited, SMCL, which was also closed at the same time. So we here in Caroni, we are responsible for Caroni matters.
Okay, so the rum distillers closed in 2010.
Those two companies were operating companies, and they were closed, and their assets sold, as I understand it. So we cannot.
Yes, I understand.
Report to you.
Yes, I understand. Ministry of Finance, could you tell us what is the status of the rum distillers company that was closed? Is it still in the state as Caroni trying to wind up, or have they closed up, wind up, shut down, liquidated completely? What is the status?
Chair, I don't have that information available at the moment, but we could try to get that for you.
Yeah, we'd like to have that in writing on the status of that. May I ask Mr. Hospitalis, is there a time frame with respect to the winding up of Caroni 1975 Limited, having regard to what you have said? And I paid attention, very close attention, to the fact that you said that there's litigation between some of the estates and EMBD, if I'm not mistaken. And so where are we with the closure, the formal and final closure of Caroni 1975 Limited?
Okay, all right. Let me see if I could probably put that in. We have reached, as I said, the end of the exercise until such time as the EMBD delivers to Caroni the 4351, the 14 estates, we could complete the exercise. However, there are a number of other issues which we are assisting the government with in terms of the finalization. As I said, when Caroni was closed, there were 224 bungalows, of which 142 were occupied by staff, which received the option to purchase it as a condition of their service, but that is in the industrial court now. And Caroni has a responsible for delivering those bungalows, which is now owned by the government actually, because nothing is owned by Caroni. But under the industrial court order, we have to, but this matter is in the industrial court. But until that matter is settled, then the process for moving to liquidation is stalled. Unless we make a determination, and we are going to quickly make this determination by the end of 2018 as to where we are with respect to the residential estates, where we are the bungalows, to make a determination whether Caroni should be in existence or everything should be taken over by government. But it's an assessment we have to make. In the meantime, we are doing this also with this is important for us to resolve because these 15 compounds, where the houses, where the bungalows are located, it is somewhere between government and Caroni, and no one seemed to take responsibility for it. So we would like to see those compounds with the bungalows move to government, and government subsequently to move them to the regional corporations, which will provide them with the normal communal services. We are required now to maintain the sites, to maintain the electricity services, because we cannot separate the separate meters and metering systems until the individuals receive leases. Caroni is the center. Couva is the center for former Caroni employees. If there are any questions with respect to their pensions, they come to Caroni. Right now, the pensions are being paid by Guardian Life and CLICO. And what we are doing now, we are setting in place the motion with Guardian Life and CLICO to ensure that these pensioners which we have probably almost 10,000 pensioners, would be able to go direct to Guardian Life and CLICO for whatever questions or queries they might have. At the same time, we are working with the NIB to reconcile the data so to ensure that when their when their pensions become available, maybe become payable, they are able to go directly to the NIB, and NIB would have the information which would not allow for Caroni as an intermediary in the matter. So these are two matters which we are working on now. A third one we are doing, when we sold the woolen stock to the former employees, we did not pursue the matter of official transfers. But because they are still on our books, we started a project with the Commission of Transport to transfer all the rolling vehicles to the existing owners, and that project is in place now. And the litigation issues, we have these litigation issues, which as you know, the speed of the courts, and we depend on the speed of the court. But these are the matters which remain. But at some point in time, both of us, the Caroni board and the management, decide that somewhere later this year, we'll do a complete evaluation as to whether the time has come for Caroni to come out, to exit, and for government to take over certain government parts to take over.
Before I ask Mr. Heinz get in, could you share with us what is the current status with the bungalows as it relates to the 142 employees? The matter of which you speak about is at the industrial court. Has there been any decision on the part of the industrial court to advise Caroni to meet with the individuals with a view of trying to settle it?
The matter is with the industrial court. We are waiting. What we did, the VSEP said, obtain a valuation, which we did. Terra Caribbean did it for us. Each employee would get up to 10,000 square feet if it's possible. We did all that. And the VSEP also said for each year of service, you're entitled to 1% discount. So someone with 20 years service will get the valuation reduced by 20%. This offer was made to employees, and the representative unions claim that the interpretation of the VSEP formula was not what they contemplated, and the matter is in court. They took the matter to court. So Caroni is awaiting for a decision of the court.
Okay. Mr. Hines?
Chairman, I have listened intently, Mr. Chairman Hospitalis, to your expose on the reasons why you are still on the job, so to speak, given that this company was not wound up, but its operations were ceased in 2003, and we are still on the job in 2018. I guess what the chairman was asking in a more indirect and perhaps softer tone was of you as chairman, for the benefit of the citizens of this republic, what assurances do you give to the public, given the time that we have just traversed, 2003 to 2018, and we are still on the job? What assurances do you give to the public that this time and all that you have said is not in some ways concocted and arranged so that a certain set of circumstances would continue? And when I say a certain set of circumstances, I can address that in a short while. But what assurances do we have that this is not being unduly prolonged? Because it's probably unheard of anywhere else. Please.
Well, committee member, Mr. Hines, this was an extremely ambitious project. It was closed in 2003, yes, but to establish those areas where you can locate agricultural estates and residential required a land capability survey undertaken by the government. So you had to undertake this land capability and then determine where to establish these agricultural estates and residential estates. And let me assure you, never in the history of Trinidad and Tobago has there been undertaken a project to deliver more than 16,000 leases in such a short space of time. And what we have done so far, we have delivered 10,000 leases. And the reason why we have not delivered the residual is because 4351 applicants are tied up in a litigation matter with the EMBD, and we cannot locate another 1,500. That's a project which as I said, was extremely ambitious, but we think that we have done quite well on it. When we started the pension arrangements, we found we had, as I said at the beginning, we had about 9,000, in excess of 9,000 employees. The record keeping was less than adequate. Data were non-existent in some cases. We had to build pensionable bases. The pension plans were deficient. They were in deficit. And government had, we had to establish a new pension arrangement for the employees. And by 2008, we had established pensionable arrangements for all the employees of Caroni, funded by government up to about 369 million. So we felt that those commitments which are under our control, we delivered it in time. But we are now held back by these two cases, the industrial court on the bungalows and the litigation for the 14 estates. both became non-operational companies. One is still in existence and a non-operational company, which is SMCL, because of the assets it has. The other has been completely liquidated and taken off the register.
So the question from the chairman about the rum stock will be answered by perusal of those records.
By the records of the rum, yeah.
You did indicate, well, just for the benefit of the listening public too, insofar as cash payments were concerned, after 2003, when the operations of Caroni was wound up, insofar as transfer of debt to the government is concerned, that figure rose to $4.198 billion. That's in your report on page 6. That included bank and bond debt of $2.6 billion, arrears to local and foreign creditors, $64 million, arrears to utilities, $17 million, completed interest on debt assumed and commercial debt. So altogether, $4 billion, and that is not to take into account other elements of benefits that would have been distributed since then. Now, I want to get to this point. You indicated that some training courses were instituted as part of the retooling, the retraining for workers. Yes. And you indicated that some workers brought their families into the training programs. Was that part of the arrangement, or?
No, but we felt that if the Ministry of Agriculture had developed a wide range of courses for us and other people, and to the extent that a family member could have been accommodated, we allowed it.
Okay.
We felt that the retraining of Caroni, retraining of Caroni workers was important for the development of the area, and that people should have this option to change lives, because Caroni had developed as a sugar cultivation manufacturing center, and to get the cultural change, people had to move in other directions, and we should facilitate it.
You also, please, yes.
What we did, Minister, is that we did not determine which training programs we are going to offer. We asked the employees by PA system, throughout the Caribbean, I myself did it, went around the communities, come to us and tell us what you want to do. And when we got a class of sufficient and an organization to do it, and this is not, this was, I am reporting here from a report done by Ernst & Young for us. Ernst & Young came in afterwards and did this report for us. We provided them with the training program. There were 20 graduates, and we had several graduation ceremonies, which we felt was important for messaging to the people of the area.
So it is correct to say, therefore, that in addition to the direct monetary benefits, which, and you've paid all, according to you, am I correct, Mr. Chairman?
$841 million.
$841 million. And the training programs of which you just spoke
16.8
accounted for about $16.8 million. And of course, pension payments prior to rationalization and rationalization of pensions, another, I would say,
502. About
$502 million. And the transfer of government debt in the sum of $1.4 billion, $4.198 billion, of which I spoke. There's still, and I'm coming now as a representative of the national community, there's still a lingering expression of former Caroni workers that they were not fairly treated. For the benefit of the public, what would your response to that be, Mr. Chairman? in light of the statistics you have just shared with us?
Well, I thought the statistics will speak for themselves. That is the someone who was involved in the exercise. It was the view of those of us who were involved that we should not spare any amount of money to ensure that these workers' lives would change and would change for the better, and making sure that the monetary benefits were paid to facilitate a transition to a new life. So we did the training programs. We felt that the agricultural, when we did the agricultural lands, and I did indicate there were 6,005 leases issued, but we did not find that the leases, that the actual agricultural activity was picking up on those lands. Yes. And they began to, then in somewhere around 2014, 2015, the government took a decision to remove the restrictive covenants in the leases with respect to reselling. And
In what year?
To resell them.
In what year the government took that decision?
I think it was somewhere around 2014.
Yes.
2014. And
Remove the restriction for resale.
Yes, so these employees now were able to monetize the residential lands they were $600,000, $700,000. They were, and the agricultural lands, they were able to monetize them. So I think that from a financial perspective, I think from when you look around what has happened otherwise around in other parts of the country, I think they were fairly treated.
And just in finality at this segment, before I give way to my other colleagues on this aspect of things, you indicated that, yes, I would like some clarification, I'm sorry, on another issue that as a citizen I've heard broached from time to time. I would like some rarely expressed clarification on this. There was expressed and there is being expressed in the national community from former Caroni workers that the European Union or EU had disbursed a sum of money to the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago for the use and benefit of the former Caroni workers, which to date they have not had access to. I would like you, as chairman of this company and project, to indicate what is the true and accurate status of that position.
I can, let me see how far I can do this. When Caroni, the Sugar Manufacturing Company Limited, I say, was established after Caroni closed, and that company was responsible. That company was responsible for the manufacturing of sugar on the basis of a continuing cultivation by farmers, by not Caroni workers, by private farmers. Now, Caroni had 76,000 acres, on which Caroni itself cultivated sugarcane, and we exit cultivation in 2003. So, and we sent home 78,000. We sent to 9,000 employees. Caroni, Caroni had tenancies on its. Caroni had tenancies on its own lands, and the tenants had also on their private lands. So if I draw a circle through it, Caroni had its own cultivation, and on its own lands, private tenants were using, paying Caroni a rental, and they also had private lands, right? So we created the Sugar Manufacturing Company Limited to manufacture sugar, which was receiving sugar cane from this group of private farmers. When Caroni closed, when sugar manufacturing closed in 2010, the government negotiated with the unions representing the farmers. I think there were 4 or 5 unions. A program of exit. The principal parts of the program was a payment of $82 million. The government paid the 3,000, I think there were 3,300, if I remember correctly, farmers. 82 million. And requested Caroni to undertake an assignment of providing each one of the tenants who were occupying Caroni lands an agricultural lease for the tenancy in which they occupied. Caroni undertook that project, what we called it was a regularization project, and we handed over all the records to the ministry, the commissioner, in what year? 2014. The government asked us in 2014 to take it over. So these were private farmers. That's the 82 million. Let's come to the European Union now. The European Union came in subsequently and indicated to us that there was money available for balance of payment support for the country. Balance of payment support for the country, as the country seek to move out of sugar into other areas. So it was a balance of payments support, which means that the money would flow into the government coffers. The government had already paid the farmers 82 million. Caroni assisted the Ministry of Agriculture with respect to the achievement of the criteria and the conditionality under which this 400 million will be drawn. So over a period of 4 years, there were 4 financing plans, plan 1, and when they cumulatively added up to about $400 million. So on the achievement of the criteria of the established criteria, tranches were drawn down, including one of the criteria. I think the first time people might be hearing it is that we must have in place a mission from the International Monetary Fund here, in accordance with their normal Article 4 cycle evaluations. So we must have a macroeconomic report, and we must achieve these criteria. Some of the criteria, of course, was you had to put the pensions on a secure basis. This is the Caroni employees now. You had to put their pensions on a secure basis. You had to have about 2,000 acres under cultivation, lands and so on. A number of criteria which we put in place. This had nothing to do with farmers. We had dealt with the farmers already. Caroni wasn't involved in this part when the farmers turned up and said the money should flow to them. And I think somehow or the other they got involved. The view was held that that the money was due to them, and they campaigned for it, and they got some of it. This is not Caroni. Caroni was not involved in that.
Who was involved in that?
This was the Ministry of Planning. The Ministry of Planning at the time.
Now, finally, so just for clarity on that matter, that support from the EU was intended for the government of the Republic.
Balance of payment support.
Good. And was not intended for anything or anyone else. I just want to get that clear.
It's clear.
Right.
It's clear.
Thank you very much.
And the EU put that in correspondence to us, because the criteria dealt with the daily paid employees, the employees who were cultivating, not farmers.
Okay. Now, just for clarity, just before I give way, you indicated in your synopsis to us earlier that having decided to make 2-acre plots available to the former employees, and having to a large extent so done, it was observed by you, Caroni, who was responsible for overseeing that the agricultural activity on those lands that you were expecting was not forthcoming. Is that correct?
And yes, and this is on the limited information we had because of the conditionality we established with the EU.
Yes.
It was required that and a number of acres had to be under cultivation.
Yes.
So Caroni utilizes its own staff, its own people, went out to the estates.
Yes.
To see which ones were under cultivation, so we had to keep anecdotal, some evidence to meet the conditionality. And Mr. Boolan here you were here.
And found that that was not the case. And then sometime subsequently, that is to say in 2014, the clause in the agreement for those 2-acre plots that restricted further sale was removed. And now these lands are being sold, or have been and are being sold, for healthy sums of money. Is that correct?
Well, so I
All right. Finally now, Mr. Chairman, just bear with me. You indicated as well that notwithstanding your best professional efforts, and notwithstanding the significant amounts that you spent in advertisements calling on former employees, you could not locate some 1,100 of them. My question is, might that be that these 1,100 people were ghost employees? Might. I'm asking, because if after all of that in that very, in the area, and the robust advertisement and expense that you incurred, how might you explain the absence of or the inability to hear from 1,100 persons who may have benefited from those adverts? I would like an explanation.
It has occupied my mind with Mr. Boolan. You are better. What do you think?
Yeah. Do you see, respected the 2-acre agricultural parcels that 724?
I'm sorry, I did not get that clearly.
In respect to the 2-acre agricultural parcel leases or the non-attendance by people coming to complete their lease processing.
Yes.
Basically, Caroni would have done the random draw or allocated plot numbers to these beneficiaries. However, we were not the agent responsible for issuing the leases. These leases would have been issued through the Commissioner of State Lands, who possess 10 sites, and the EMBD, who possess 7 sites, which were under their controller. Caroni would have simply supplied the files to the Commissioner of State Lands, and the Commissioner of State Lands now would have been the agency, along with the EMBD, responsible for completing the transaction by sending instruction to the Chief State Solicitor Office, getting the clients to come and sign their leases, and then registering and delivering it. So it is really a Commissioner of State Lands issue, I believe.
So in essence, you are saying that you are not in a position to give a rational explanation to this committee as to the inability to find 1,100 persons. You are not able to explain that.
Is why we have not been able to find it. It's something which occurred to me because of the comprehensive advertising campaign we did. But the fact is, Minister, is that they came in, we are aware of these employees. Remember, I started off this submission by saying that we started off with 90-20 whom we knew. The manner in which we approached this exercise was we were careful about it. We decided which estates we are going to locate these employees at. We wanted to have employees as close as possible to their estates. So we would advertise that on so-and-so day, anyone who is interested in Esperanza, Felicity, so come to Caroni. And when you arrive at Caroni, we would have a map, we'll have a map of the estate, and if there are 240 2-acre size plots on that map, we will number them 1 to 240. Ernst & Young will organize a random draw, and they drew from you, and they will say, this is your 2-acre size plot. And when you obtain the lease, we show you the plot. So we are aware that these people exist. Because they were there, we were there. That's so, Mr. Boland.
All right, I think that we have exhausted that one. Can I ask Mr. Dr. Gopi Singh and then Senator Dino right after?
Thank you, Chair. We hear about Caroni lands, 76,600 acre transferred to government. And we are aware of the transfer involve Caroni lands and Orange Grove estate by virtue of the industrial court agreement. How much of that 76,600 acres was owned by Orange Grove, or did they own anything? And how did the matter before the industrial court in 2003 incorporate Orange Grove estate? Is that separate from the 76,600 acres?
It's inclusive of everything.
Speak a little slower so we can be more discerning.
76,600 incorporates Orange Grove and Caroni.
How much of that was Orange Grove?
If I can remember, probably 3,000 acres.
All right, about 3,000 acres. Okay, could you give us an understanding from a national perspective, now that you have given 4,000, you have given a certain amount of 2-acre plots, 7,246 have been prepared, executed, and registered. So that's approximately 14,500 acres, correct? 7,246 by 2. Given out already.
Hold on, how much we have? We have 20,000 acres for the piece.
Yeah, well,
20,000 acres.
Infrastructure.
Because you have it's infrastructure, access roads, you have, it's not a constant.
So you have,
20,000 acres.
you have allocated a portion, 20,000 acres.
20,000 acres.
For the 2-acre residential plots.
Yes. For the 2-acre,
2-acre
plots.
agriculture plots.
Yeah.
And how many, what's the size of the residential plot at an
For the
average?
residential built-up development, it is. Which is, this is the 3.29 is how much here? I didn't get it here.
Mr. Hospitalis, I thought that you would know that by heart, the length of time you have been
It
there.
was about 5,000 acres.
No, Mr. Hospitalis, I'm asking you, what's the average size of a residential plot? Since we had
5,000
square feet.
Yeah.
Square feet.
Yeah, but they are, how much it was? Well,
I'm just trying to get an understanding of the acreage that
I
has
understand.
been.
I understand. I had asked them to do this for me last night, actually, but I cannot get
God,
it.
Mr. Hospitalis.
I can't get it out.
You have been there for the longest time. Hold on.
Mr.
And you have 7,000. I'm trying to.
4,000 to 5,000
Please,
acres.
Mr. Hospitalis, listen to my question. You have 76,600 acres of land from Orange Grove. You said 3,000 plus Caroni Limited. I'm trying to get an understanding of how much land is available for the state from this 76,600. So you were saying approximately 20,000 acres, 15,000 for the 2-acre plots, and is it 5,000 for the residential plots?
Yes, yeah.
Right. How much had been given or allocated to industrial estates through to the business community?
Industrial, commercial, residential. This is very, very commercial.
And could you explain the commercial?
I have about, can you tell me? You could do it. You check it out. You did it.
Approximately 5,218 acres were assigned or allocated to NEC, ETEC, and EMBD.
No. 5,200 acres are allocated to.
Well, we have it for industrial, commercial, and we have it under three agencies.
Which are the agencies?
NEC, ETEC, and EMBD.
Do you know how much of these, you said 3,000?
5,000.
5,000.
218. Yeah.
How many of those have been occupied by industrial companies? Have you been able to understand what these companies have done with these 5,000 acres of land? That would have been given to the business sector then.
Understand, member, we do not own the land. This land is government land and government has transferred. So Caroni, Mr. Boland, and they keep a watchful eye on what is happening on this estate. It's not our responsibility. This is government land. This is the Commission of States responsible for this land. And the land goes to people. So Caroni, we keep a record of it. What is it? We find out, we check it out, but we have no responsibility for it.
So, Mr. Boland, from your introspection into this, you have found that there are possibly close to 5,000 acres of land that been given to NEC. That's NEC?
NEC,
NEC.
ETEC, and EMBD.
You have any appreciation of the amount given to each one of those?
I don't have it, but I could provide it.
And what was the purpose of giving these companies land if you did some inquiry?
These were for industrial and commercial.
Industrial and commercial. So we have about 25,000 acres of land that had been given out for various reasons. 20 plus 5, yes?
Yeah.
So from the 76,600, how much land do you think the state has for itself from the original Caroni and Orange Grove?
I think the Commissioner of State Lands might be in a better position to probably answer this.
All right, well, so 20 plus 5, 25 minus from 76,600 is about 51,000.
No, but we also had other, even though Caroni Lands might have been 76,600, probably about 30,000 acres when Caroni was in operation would have been utilized for sugarcane cultivation by the company. Outside that, we had 11,875 being rented to agricultural farmers.
How much was leased or tenanted by agricultural farmers?
11,875.
Let's say 12,000.
Yeah.
And you said, you gave another figure just now. So out of the 51,000 acres left, you said from those 51,000, 11,000, are they still being held in tenancy by the...
Yes, yes. But all Caroni lands were transferred to the state with the coming to the operation of the Caroni and Orange Grove Divestment Act, which was proclaimed in June 2006 by the President. So all these lands have been transferred under the authority of the Commissioner of State Lands.
Commission of State Land responsible for everything.
So around 50,000 acres of land the Commissioner of State Land has under his jurisdiction now.
Well, really, our entire land holding, which was the 76,600.
No, but, all right, but you give out 25,000 already from that. And you said that a certain amount is being tenanted, from your understanding, by private farmers.
Yes.
So if private farmers owned about 11,000 of that,
12,000, yeah.
so probably just around 39,000 acres of land, the Commissioner of State Land we have not encumbered. Yeah? So I was just trying to get that answer to see where we are with former Caroni land nationally. We speak about 76,000. All right, so we are relatively clear on that. So we can ask the Commissioner of State Land how much land he has at his disposal from the original Caroni 1975 Limited and Orange Grove, right? Equipment sale. You said that there was an equipment sale done by when it was dissolved. Could you tell us what was the value of the equipment sale of selling out these to the employees and then outside of the employees? What was the value that Caroni got? And give us some appreciation of what were some of the main items. Because I remember somewhere along the line, whether I might have been in the Senate at the time, There were questions on the value received from the sale of these equipment. And we thought it was just a garage sale, but we want to have an understanding of how much the state received from the sale of these equipment.
I know we received 13 million.
How much?
There were 15 auctions. There were 15 auctions, and we got about, how much, 13 auctions? How many auctions we had? Huh? 15 auctions we had.
38 million.
And 13 million.
13 million.
13 million.
Could you give us you have any understanding, well, appreciation of what was supposed to be sold and how was it sold? Was it by a bidding process, an open bidding process, or a closed bidding process?
Yeah, well, we engaged an auctioneer.
Auction.
We engaged a professional auctioneer, and that professional auctioneer established days advertisement, and he came and he did the auction, through an auction process.
So you have a listing of what was auctioned?
We have numbers here, but I would imagine, Russell.
If you don't have it here with you, could you provide it for the
I can provide you with
the
that list.
committee? The amount of equipment that you said were rolling equipment. Okay.
Just add,
Yeah.
before that, apart from the number of pieces of equipment that would have been sold via auction, defining and outlining those pieces of equipment, could we also provide this committee with the attendant value or the attached value that was eventually gained via the auction? So for each piece of equipment that was sold,
Correct.
we want to know what was the value realized via auction.
And what year was that and so on?
Okay?
Okay. The bungalows. You said there are 224 bungalows when Caroni was closed down, and 120 were given to staff.
142 were occupied by individuals as a condition of their service. The others were occupied by tenants. And there are others which are being utilized by government departments and so on. But I do not have here with me of how each one is being occupied. But I can tell you, our first mission is to get the 142 resolved in industrial. As we get the 142, the government also told us any other individual who as a condition of their service required a bungalow should be given a bungalow. And we determined there were 15. So there's 142 plus 15, 142 or 15. Then the government also told us that their tenants, those tenants who were occupying the bungalows, it would be sold to them. And I think there were 15 tenants. And if my memory serves me right. But we have been concentrating on the 142 bungalows first.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You said that there is a court matter occupying this issue of the bungalows. Could you just indicate what that court matter is?
When we made the offer to the 142 employees, the representative union indicated to us that the formula which was utilized was not consistent with their understanding, and they referred the matter to the industrial court.
All right, so 142 plus 15 is 172 from 224. You have about 52 more bungalows.
The others are occupied by Mr. Boulan, by
State agencies.
Could you speak in the microphone?
By state agencies.
You said state agencies. Would you want to elaborate, or you may not have the details here with you?
Right,
Could you provide this committee
Yeah, sure.
with a detailed breakdown of the state agencies
problem.
that are
Occupying.
occupying the 52 remaining bungalows. Right?
Has any been sold to any particular former employee so far? None. So when those bungalows became available to the occupiers, at what year those became available after Caroni Limited closed down? 2003?
As I said, after 2003, what we did, we had to take, currently we had to survey, we had to do cadastral surveys of each bungalow to cut them out for one to be able to issue a lease. Having done the cadastral surveys, we had them valued by Terra Caribbean. On the basis of those valuations, and with appropriate discounts up to 20%, the offer was made to the representative union, which did not think, as I said, that the formula utilized was consistent with the VSEP formula.
So they're still living, some may be living in the bungalows,
They are
but
still
nothing
living,
has
and
been
Caroni
paid.
is responsible for maintaining the compounds. We are paying electricity
All right.
and
Okay.
water.
I think you have answered the question on that. There is the golf course that was owned by Caroni and the beach house that was owned. What has happened to those?
Did he what? Did he?
My understanding, there was a golf course and a beach house that was owned there. What is
Those were transferred to the state.
They
The
were
state, everything went to the state.
transferred to the state? So the state is managing.
State is handling.
Right. There's a packing house constructed by DevCo next to the Bridgeton Castle head office. You could give us an understanding what has happened to that. What is the state?
This is the government, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Commission of State Lands. This is their land. Their land.
All right, I understand that nothing has happened despite the fact that that has been given for a little while. The Prime Minister mentioned recently that there's a Phoenix Park industrial estate to be constructed. Is that going to, from your knowledge, being part of the Caroni system still, do you know whether that is part of is going to be constructed in part of the Caroni land?
We don't have county lands again. We have state lands. It might be part of state land.
Right, state land.
We are not control of the state lands, Mr. Minister. We are not control the state land. We are in control of Caroni, which is a non-operation company, to deliver commitments to the employees.
Okay. All right, so you don't know anything about that. I just have a few more to ask you. The pensions.
Yeah.
You said you have approximately 10,000 pensioners.
Yeah.
And they are being paid by Guardian Life and Clico.
Clico, yeah.
You have an appreciation of, are there still 10,000 pensioners receiving pensions? And what's the value of the pension that Caroni left so that the executors of the pension, Guardian Life and Clico, can be working with the value of the pension?
Let me see if I could develop this pension plan. As I indicated, we found the records in Caroni to be less than adequate. And we had to build a database. That's number one. Number two, there were three methodologies for paying pensions. One came out of what we call the old scheme, a Caroni Limited pension plan, which was in deficit. So there was a limited amount of resources under the control of Clico, so Clico was able to pay something out of it. There was a second plan which replaced the old scheme, they called it new plan, and that plan, the membership was not resolved. First to begin, they gave the members the option to be a member or not, and I think that was not a good idea, and that plan had some assets in it. But the union and Caroni in 1992 establish an agreement that each pensioner will receive $650 minimum. So when we built a new pensionable system for Caroni, we established a floor of 650, because there were some people who were getting, as a former president of Caroni, a former president of the union, an industrial, he was getting $40 a month. We established a floor of 650. To establish that floor of 650 and utilize the resources, the limited resources in the new plan and the old scheme, the government came in with $369 million. And what we did, through an advertising campaign again.
Around what time was that?
We did this probably about
369 million.
2526, about 2627, about 252627, something like that. We got the workers to come in, employees, for us to build this database. And we identified 7,436 who were legitimate pensioners.
That included the daily paid.
Daily paid, yes, they were legitimate pensioners, and we purchased immediate and deferred annuities in an amount of 227 million for them. We knew also that there were 2658 which might exist. We had data for them. In analysis of the records at CLICO, the records at Caroni. So what we did, we established a reserve fund under the jurisdiction of the Trustee Republic Bank, into which we placed 142 million, and we advertised and we indicated that whoever turns up, the trustee with a legitimate claim, the trustee will purchase the appropriate annuity. We established this reserve fund for a period of 7 years, 2008, 2015. In May 2015, the reserve fund closed. In that period, 880 turned up. And since we transferred the residual to the Ministry of Finance, since we are going out, we are getting out of this, so we transferred, and the Ministry of Finance established a line item in the budget, so that if anyone comes up with a claim, the Ministry of Finance doesn't have to go to Cabinet to get that payment to be made. Since the transfer was made, 4 have turned up. So we believe that we have completed this pensionable base now, and it's working properly.
What would you believe that has been a minimum pension, monthly minimum pension to any of the workers?
The minimum pension in that pension rate is $650.
How much?
$650.
Yeah.
But others get more than that.
And how many are benefiting from that still? The pension? How many former employees are still benefiting from it?
Well, the pensionable base is 7436 plus 880 plus 4. And now the monthly employees are separate. In the case of the monthly employees, their plan was in surplus. So what we did by 2008, we put in place the procedures to wind up that plan, and we paid out the surplus to the pensionable base of 1,300. There are 1,300 monthly paid players receiving their pensions, receive an additional distribution through the surpluses, and they are now 9616 daily paid receiving. So we are dealing with about 10,000 pensioners.
All right. Could you clarify this issue about the estates? I heard you mention something about 16 estates and 14 estates and so on. Could you just give, and 14 or something under in a court matter? Yeah, could you just?
Yeah. Under the Divestment Act, The divestment established the estates on which the EMBD will be required to roll out the infrastructure for the residential services. As I indicated, all the lands went back to government. But because in discussing the matter with the chief state solicitor with respect to the time period it will take to prepare this and the lack of capacity we felt it should be speedier. So we went to government and asked government to return some of the estates to Caroni to expedite the lease issuance exercise. Through a head lease between the Commissioner of State Land and Caroni. Caroni has 17 estates out of the 30. The Sugar Industry Welfare Committee has 2. That is 19, and 11 is still with the government. When those, and those are really the residual 14, in the residual 14. When those become, if the litigation is resolved and we are able to resume the lease issuance exercise, then we'll put the head lease in place.
So 4,351 former Caroni employees are caught up in this litigation process. What is the nature of the litigation? You don't have to divulge because it's probably before the courts, but
this is an EMBD matter. I am not, I don't follow EMBD matters. I have my own.
So these 4,351 former employees cannot get what was due to them because the matter is tied up in court.
Well, it might be less than 4351.
But I heard you mention that.
It might be. I'll tell you.
You mentioned 4351. I wrote it down. On residual 14 estates and are now in litigation.
Yes.
So you're changing your mind?
Let me tell you, no, let me tell you. The VSEP, only 7514 applied in the VSEP. So our responsibility for 7514. However, the government extended the period, they extended the offer, and because the EMBD was able to deliver an amount of lots in excess of the 7514, 8855, in the extension, 7514 original, 8855 is the final offer. Because the lots are there, we are able to make the delivery.
You're able to make?
To deliver that to all the 8855. Only 7514 applied in the original VSEP. Our mandate is to deliver resident lots to the VSEPs. But the government extended the offer afterwards, and it reached 8855 from 7514. That's an additional of 13 something.
Of the approximate 9,000 former employees which we spoke about, and it's part of your response to the questions that we asked you, 7,866 daily paid and 1,154 monthly paid. Could you give this committee an appreciation of how many of those former employees have not been given their 2-acre plots? That's the first question.
First question is, all who have accessed the application process have received such leases. 6,005 agricultural plots. As I said, there were 7246 applicants. So the difference between 7246 and 605 are those whom we have not been able to locate. If they come to Caroni now, they would be processed and be given their lots.
So you still have that option to be able to work with that 1,200 who have not come forward? Or is that resident in the Commission of State Land?
Except for one point. The lease says, if you do not, you have how long to accept it, Mr. Bolan? Huh? How much? No. But the lease tells you if you have, You could accept it any time? You didn't have a period to accept? Okay, what Mr. Bolan is saying is that anyone who comes anytime, with the residential lots, that is not so. With the residential, you have a time period to accept.
I just want you to focus. I'm going to end my discussion with you, with your team shortly. But out of the 7246, you said 6,005 have received the 2-acre plots. And those out of the 7246, if they come at any time, would they come to you or they have to go to the Commission of State Land?
Right now, Caroni is the agent responsible on the industrial court order for delivery to the Caroni.
How many were eligible for the residential plots? How many former Caroni workers? The same 7246?
I can only say who came in.
No.
7514 applied.
7514 applied.
Applied in the original VSEP in February 2003, 7514.
So
however,
they were entitled to a plot, a residential plot.
Yeah.
How many have accessed these residential plots from the 7514?
From the 7514? No. We have delivered 4274 leases.
So there are 42.
There's a residual of 4351, which are tied up in the litigation.
So in summary, there are about 1,200 former employees, if that is, who are still to get the 2-acre agricultural plot, and 4,351 have not received their residential plots because they are tied up in the litigation matter.
Yes.
For now, I will end my question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. So I'm looking at page 22 of your submission, and I see that there's almost an amount of $7 million that is owed to Caroni, majority of which is owed by the Board of Inland Revenue. Can you indicate how long these monies have been owed, and also what is the process in place to recover this money before the completion of the whole liquidation process?
I will have Ms.
All right. Good morning. The VAT, which is in a refundable position right now, is 6.6 million. That's between 2011 to 2018. We are still awaiting a response from the Board of Inland Revenue with respect to this amount that is still outstanding.
Thank you. Do you have an idea of how long that process
No. We have tried liaising with them, but we still have to wait on a response from them.
Okay. I have one more question. I just want to follow up on one of the questions that Member Hines would have pointed out to in terms of the training program. Now, I understand that more persons were trained than initially planned because you all ended up including the families and so on. You all have an idea of what percentage of these trainees, those persons who would have received training, have established their own businesses?
We knew that they were quickly employed. Most of them were quickly employed, and I should indicate that one of the major projects that we put together was arc welded. The NTC arc welded these large pipes, and they were very fortunate is that upon the completion of the project, NGC was doing the cross-country pipe, and all of them were actually employed on this program. But really speaking, it's really through anecdotal evidence we'll hear that people are doing their own.
So therefore, does that mean that you all have no sort of documented evidence of
persons who would have received training and went on to other endeavors, that they maybe is better off or would have found alternative means of earning income?
I appreciate the comment, and Caroni is a non-operational company. As we deliver the mandates, we reduce the staff. We started off with 118, and now we're down to 37. This exercise requires personnel and require resources. And in terms of the work we had to the work program, this was an exercise in which, as I said earlier on, we had anecdotal evidence, but it's not something we followed up with.
Okay, thank you.
But it's good for a student at UWI doing a master's program should come and do this.
Yes, but then in that case, they would
don't
need
think
to
so,
have
Karen,
some
yeah.
sort of documentation,
Type of thing that
documented
researchers should come and
evidence.
do and see what happened to Caroni after reconstruction.
Perhaps it should have been part of the initial divestment strategy.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's it for now.
Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions I'd like to ask for some clarification. First of all, can you indicate, as far as you're aware, was there at any time any agreement arrived at the industrial court between the parties? And if so, was cabinet approval needed for any final settlement? Are you aware of any effort at arriving at an agreement? Was there any agreement arrived at and requiring cabinet's approval, Mr. Hospitalis?
Well, subsequent to the matter going to the court, Chairman of Caroni was requested to liaise with the former employees to resolve the matter. We sat with a committee of the representative union, and when that matter was sort of resolved, the union rejected it. Then subsequently they came back to us, and we sought to work out an agreement, which thereafter we sought government's advice, and it was passed on to another department of government to look after it, as I understand it. But I am not too sure where it is now. But it's back in the court. It's in the court. The government put it back in the court.
So the government did not settle it. They have placed it back into the lap of the courts. Yeah, as far as you are aware.
Huh?
No, I say as far as you are aware.
As far as I'm aware, it's in the government department. Where it is? It's in public administration. Somewhere around. It's not a Chairman. We wait for government direction.
Can I ask the Ministry of Finance whether they are aware that there has been some attempt at settling this issue with the bungalows, and it is somewhere within the government apparatus to get government's agreement and final approval by the cabinet so it can be taken back to the industrial court? Are you aware of this?
Chairman, we could look into that for you, but we're not aware that at this point.
Yes. I just want to ask, what legal arrangements are in place for occupation by those persons who are in possession of those bungalows at this time? For example, the 142 to start with, and the 1,500 tenants. What is the legal arrangement in place for occupation?
I think this is a very gray area, because the matter, we progressed the matter to resolution as a board. The matter went to the court. The occupiers of the bungalow remained there, demanded from us maintenance of the compounds, which we do. We supply electricity, we supply water, and we we would like to exit the supply of water. Who is paying now for the water? Huh? Public administration is now paying for the water. We got public administration to pay for the water and electricity. So we are still paying for it. And it's a very difficult situation that these occupiers cannot do anything with the bungalows. They cannot go to any bank to get any because they don't own it. We are caught in the middle. The government owns these bungalows, but we got the government now just to pay for the water, but we are supplying electricity. It's an expense. Well, you know, it's one government in any event. So.
You said you have an executive management team, and I saw the names here, but I didn't see anyone being held on your team for the responsibility of maintenance of the properties. Do you have anybody on your team that does that?
Yes, we have a person who is responsible for that. Her name is Alicia. She's at the back. She's responsible for the maintenance of the entire estate. So,
And she's part of the executive management team?
Yes, she's part of the team. She's here with us.
Okay. No, all I'm saying is that we didn't see the name here, so maybe it might have been oversight on your part.
Somebody realizes it's a team which has been reducing over time.
So
I, as chairman, I don't want people with high positions there doing very little. So we have constrained the operation, and we work together.
So right now you have your management team is really made up of 3 persons and not 4.
Well, Mr. Dishi.
Page number is 12. If you look at page 12 of your submission, that is why I asked the question about property maintenance. And as you said, you have someone who is responsible for that, and that is part of the executive management team. Now, may I ask? Yes, sir? Mr. Larnell?
On page 13, you would have a more detailed organizational structure of how the entity functions at this point in time. So we have 4 different areas on which we manage the operations.
Yes, you have something called security and property, but you didn't indicate who is responsible for that.
That may have been an oversight, and that can be corrected.
All right. We had also asked for the resumes of these people. We saw job descriptions, but we didn't get an accompanying resumes. Would you want to supply those resumes to us now? Or can you supply it in writing again?
We can.
Because I think it was an oversight.
We can do it.
All right. May I also ask whether the debt, Mr. Hospitalis, what is the amount of monies that is rather currently owed to Caroni 1975 Limited as we speak? What's the final debt that you are owed right now? Based on your accounts for 17, 16, 18, there is a debt figure there that you owe, or people owe you. Yes, Caroni. What is the total debt now?
There is pre-2003 debt there's a long list of which we have made provisions on. Post 2003, we do people don't know us. Tell me. Who owes Caroni?
It's at, yes.
Page.
It is there. It's all that.
It's under there.
Oh, this is, look at here, the Board of Finance, look at here.
So let me be a little clearer to you. what is the total sum? That is 2.82. What is the total sum of debt outstanding as at November 30th, 2018? And you are saying that you have some 7.7 million,
And 24.
which is an increase over the 20, approximately, of 94. So what I'm asking, you have 7 million outstanding.
The answer is on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no return generated. Caroni files tax returns, VAT returns currently. Board of Finance owes Caroni 6.6 million.
Okay.
Caroni Green owes Caroni an amount of 109,000 for salaries paid prior to its incorporation. The Ministry of Agriculture owes Caroni 200,000 for salaries paid to Cane Farmers Regulation Unit.
And what efforts are we making to recover these monies? Because they owe you?
Who is it?
No, I'm saying what efforts are you making as Caroni to recover these monies that are owed to you?
Yeah, this is from government actually, so
So it's government to government, so they can continue owing you right through?
yeah, and we are non-operational and
You are non-operational.
And Chairman, on several times during our existence, the government asks us to do certain things for them.
Okay.
And for instance, prior to Caroni Green, could you set up Caroni Green for us?
All right, okay, I wouldn't pursue that. Let me just ask another question before I ask
pay us sometimes.
Mr. Hans to come in.
They paid us for Caroni Green.
In your submission, we were told that Caroni 1975 Limited was allocated some 14.4 million in the 2019 budget of the Republic. However, there is no existing internal audit function at the entity. So we would like to know, maybe through the Ministry of Finance and your good self, how does, first of all, the ministry ensure oversight, accountability, and transparency over this sum of money as it relates to expenditure? That's the first area we like to have clarified from the ministry. And secondly, we would like to have clarified the absence of this internal audit function. We realize that you have appointed a chief financial officer in 2004. Is that officer still on board? And how do we address the integrity of the finances of Caroni in the absence of an internal auditor or an internal audit function, realizing that Caroni is given $14.4 million. So you can't be given $14.4 million and we don't have any accountability in terms of an internal function, audit function, to know what kind of controls we have there within the Caroni 1975 Limited. So first of all, I'm asking the Ministry of Finance, in light of the absence of an internal audit function with this amount of monies that have been allocated, it might seem to be small, but there's a lot, 14 million is a lot of money. So we would like to know, one, how is the ministry conducting its oversight responsibility to ensure proper accountability and transparency for these expenditures, particularly in the absence of an internal audit function? Can you clarify for us?
Okay, thank you, Chair. May I defer to my director to answer your question properly? Thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair. With respect to Caroni 1975 Limited, because it's a non-operational companies, as we do with most non-operational companies, the level of reporting that's required from them in the state, which is stated in the State Enterprises Performance Monitoring Manual. Because it's non-operational, the focus is not for operating. We don't require them to submit all the reports, but we do look at, in respect of the Caroni 1975, we focus to ensure that all outstanding commitments of the company are completed so that the company could begin the process of winding up, because that is our main aim, to wind up the company. As such, we will look at the board minutes, examine the board minutes to see what decisions are made, how they allocate funding for whatever projects, and to ensure that it is for the purpose of closing down the company, the mandate that they have, which is for the employees. We will look to see what decisions they made and ask questions on it. We also look at, they also have budget submissions on a yearly basis. We would also look to see what items they request funding for, and as to ensure that it's in line with the mandate to close the company and to deliver on those items that the chair spoke of. We look at the financial statements for accounting for use of funds disbursed to ensure that it is in line with, again, the mandate to close the company. The company had loans. They submit a status of loans and reports to monitor. So we look at that to monitor the payments for outstanding loans to ensure that all loans are paid before the company is closed up. We look at the litigation reports for legal proceedings to ensure, to see what kind of matters they have outstanding and what sort of funding that may be required from the states to meet those things. So that is the level of scrutiny we would monitor.
Are applicable to Caroni 1975?
This was
all of them?
All of them.
And how are you able to ensure, even though it is non-operational, that taxpayers' monies that are being allocated in the absence of an internal audit function, seeing that you segregate and discriminate in terms of what you would require to look into if this was a fully functioning state enterprise? You have reduced the level of surveillance and vigilance. How do you ensure that the monies that are allocated to this non-operational company is being spent consistently with, well-established principles and standards and regulations within the Audit and Exchange Act?
Okay, well, what the reports that we may not require is like the strat plan, because how we look at it, they have a specific mandate to deliver certain things to the employees, basically, right? So we will look for a mandate from them, that the strategic plan from them. We may not look at the cash flow. We have one called cash flow of operations. Those basically the two ones you don't have, but everything else, which are very important, the financial statements they do submit the budgets, they do have board meetings, and they submit ministers. We do review them, we look at them, we ask questions on all the matters, because they give a report in the minutes of where they reach, of how they spend the money, what the mandates that they have to deliver to the employees, how far they reach on those things. So even though they don't have an internal audit department, we still have a level of scrutiny based on these reports, like the loans, which is they had a high amount of loan. As that last year, they have completely paid off all their loans, right? So they don't have any loans currently. The litigation reports they have. But we know the two we were speaking about, plus a normal little one. So we still have a level of scrutiny, although it may not be as wide-ranging as an operational company.
Madam Permanent Secretary, are you satisfied with the arrangement that are in place as it relates to the absence of an internal audit function, given the amount of monies that are being allocated? Conscious of the fact there is a non-operational company. And do you think that, given there are a number of companies that are winding up or that have wound up, GHRS, CISL, seafood industry, we have Petrotrin as an example that have been reorganized and shut down. What I'm trying to find out is that what would be your thinking as to whether you are satisfied with that arrangement? Conscious of the fact we are not casting any aspersions on anyone. We are just trying to look at it from the perspective of proper accountability and transparency in the interest of the taxpayers.
I understand your perspective, Chair. Just to encapsulate, repeat what Director was saying. Once we see an issue reflected in those board minutes, we do raise it formally to the attention of the chairman. We cite the issue. We couch it in the context of, if it's in this case, the Industrial Relations Agreement or the Performance Monitoring Manual, and we submit a written observation and recommendation for change in a formal letter from Corporation Sole to the chairman. So that is one effective mechanism that, well, I think it's effective, that is used not only for this company, non-operational companies, as well as all other state-owned enterprises. As the chairman of the company indicated earlier, the staff is minimal. As I probably indicated in my opening statement, it falls under the purview of the Ministry of Finance. So non-operational companies, the board is constituted by Ministry of Finance staff. The board holds management to account for the activities that are undertaken with a view to winding up, as well as expenditure. So there is an effective mechanism to hold management to account.
May I just ask one final question before I ask my colleague to come in? Do you think the time has arrived, given the dynamics of the environment and the state of our economy, with a number of companies being wound up, do you think the time has come, Madam Permanent Secretary, for us to consider the formulation of guidelines for non-operational companies, just as though we have a state manual for functioning state enterprises, and there are areas clearly delineated for them to carry out and ensure that they adhere to? Do you think that the time has come for the Ministry of Finance to consider the establishment of guidelines, even for us at this level? So when we are interviewing or inquiring into the activities of a non-operational company, we can have guidelines from the Ministry of Finance that we can follow and appreciate. Well, look, these are the parameters that these companies, even though they are non-operational, that they must follow because they are in existence and they are in receipt of public funds. Do you think the time has come for the Ministry of Finance to consider the establishment, formulation of guidelines for non-operational enterprises? Do you think?
Actually, Chair, the conversation has started within the Ministry of Finance, and there is obviously an opportunity to formalize that in one probably comprehensive document. So I think there's an opportunity to advance those discussions and probably produce something for
Thank you very much.
guidance.
Mr. Hines, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, for the last few moments, we heard the use of the word bungalow. That's an old anglicized description of a property. Just for the benefit of those who are listening carefully to us, these so-called bungalows, they're not any little hut with any thatch roof and so on. Could you tell us typically what they are and give us a little idea what the value of these in today's world? Because, you know, we inherited, we bought when in 1975 Caroni Limited was established. It was taken from Tate and Lyle, a private operator, and English people. And in those days, the word bungalow was a little more applicable and relevant. Tell us a little bit about these little bungalows, what they're worth today, and give us a little idea, lest people believe it's a little thatch roof shed.
I can share with this committee, but not consent for the valuation done by on each one.
Yes, please.
I can share the.
You're more than welcome.
The valuation, and I can share that with you. And these bungalows were built by the former owners, Tate and Lyle, for the overseas personnel who came here. Yes, that's in Petrotrin.
Rather than give us a devaluation of each of them, which
Yes,
might be a little lengthy, give us a little average.
Evaluation of each one done.
Give us an average. I know you have that, and you could produce that to us in writing.
I will do we had an evaluation of the 142.
Yes, yes.
142.
Yes. Right, thank you. And give us a little idea now as to the average cost of those. Ballpark.
If I recall, it ranged from about 400,000 to about how much million? 1.5 million. I can't, you know, it's way back. You have it? No,
You could provide that to us in writing.
I know some were worth in the vicinity of 1.5 million, others about 400,000, 500. They had different values.
Thank you very much. And of course, you indicated to us that in the shutdown operations, these were offered to former employees by the company, so to speak. And they took that matter to court, challenging the price. Am I correct?
Yes.
They found that the price the company was calling was a little too much. And that is the matter that is in front of the court
and
now.
The price came out of a formula.
Say again?
Price came out of a formula.
Yes.
Formula, let me repeat again. Have the properties valued. We did it, we got Terra Caribbean to the valuation.
To value them.
They did the valuation. Reduced by 1%, the value up to 20% for each year of service.
Yes.
So someone who had 10 years service will get 10% discount, one with 25 years service will get 20% discount. And then make that offer to the individual.
At 50% of the...
No.
Sorry.
The most discount they get is 20% discount.
Okay.
The view was held at that time by the representative union that the formula, the valuation did not reflect what they felt should have been done.
And as such, the matter was taken to court. And it still is now before the court for final adjudication. I would like, through you, Mr. Chairman, again, for the benefit of the Trinidad and Tobago publics, an indication from you in writing at a later stage, what to this date is the total cost of this entire project? Because I don't think the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago even knew before we started this morning the amount of billions of dollars
I have
that
here,
this has
I have here.
traversed
I could probably, I could write it and send it afterwards.
to date.
Yeah, to date, all right.
Training, pensions.
The last figure I saw was about 10 billion.
About $10 billion, roughly. But you can provide us that in writing.
And this is the complete, that would start with the monetary benefits, that will go to the pensions, it will go to training, it will go to the residential development, the agricultural development, and the takeover of the debt.
I advise, and if you can provide this committee in writing, based on Mr. Hines' question, the total up-to-date value of this project, and give us a detailed breakdown of the costs from 203 to now. Yeah, so we want a total breakdown. Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It would be rather illuminating if we would understand that. I have noticed, and you were asked by this committee to account for the significant decrease in cash and cash balances during the period 2012 to 2018, to which you indicated to this committee in your report that 2014, 2015, you had cash balances at page 23. You had cash balances to the tune of $62.5 million. And of course, that, and this is what prompted our question, fell to, I think, about $6 million. And of course, in explanation, you pointed out, interestingly to us, that you were made to refund $57.5 million as at in January 2015, the government of the day, in January of 2015, the then government took the opportunity and, well, they decided to make the residential service lots to former Caroni employees free. Some of them had already paid or deposits on those residential lots. The government took the decision to make the properties, the residential lots, free, and as such, you were made to refund $57 million to people who had already paid for those lots. Is that correct? In addition to removing the restrictive covenants with regards to the time frame during which, or not before which, these lots could have been sold. Is that correct? Isn't this a wonderfully happy country? That's a rhetorical question. So I wouldn't want you to answer that. So that explains. Now, are you in receipt of any income today as you now stand? Tell us, Madam Finance, Madam Tufts, is Caroni, as it now stands, in receipt of any income?
The only income received is from a rental from Rural Development, who is occupying part of the building. And that is a mere $3,000.
Mr. Chairman, I'll give way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Following that question, what has been the annual subvention from the government to Caroni within the last 3 years or so, 16, 17, 18? Do you have it there?
I don't have the exact figure, but it will be about between $13 million to $14.5 million.
Well, I see here on Caroni Limited financial statement in 2018, if I may bring you to it. The subvention from the state has been about, in 2017, I see here revenue 92 billion, but government subvention 92 million in 2017, and 2018 84 million.
Okay.
That's
that 92 million and that 84 million would include the repayment of the loan.
the repayment of.
Yes, the repayment of the loan.
All right. Mr. Hospitalis, Mr. Chairman, would I be correct to state, following your answer just a while ago, that the closure of Caroni Limited in 2003 has cost this country close to $10 billion so far?
Be correct to say that.
Thank you. So the closure in 2003 has cost this country $10 billion. Yeah. Confirmed.
This. I don't think that happened in 2003.
Yes,
No.
Since 2003.
Since 2003.
Yes.
Over time. Because the residential lots.
The last one I have for you is
pensions.
Yes, you are right.
And I gather, well, as has been made very clear today, a large chunk of this had to do with gifts and payments to workers and so on. Would that be correct? Yes. To former workers, am I correct?
Yeah, but
Thank you.
Don't you-
residential and agricultural lots.
So what would Caroni have done then? How long you have been with Caroni, Mr. Chairman?
I started as chairman in 2003.
2003. So you have been with the company for about 16 years.
Yeah.
Would you not say that it would be terrible to remove workers where they were earning a decent livelihood by virtue of their hard work and take them off their cultivation without rewarding them with something from the state, as the VSEP, which was agreed by the industrial court? And this is what was responsible for the 2-acre plots and the 1 acre. And if it had not been closed in 2003, the country would not have had to pay that $10 billion by ensuring the development of these plots and so on. You have been there for 16 years. Yes.
Well, my job was to deliver the commitments.
But what is your thought, since you have been there for 16 years running Caroni?
Different forum, in a different place.
If we had not closed Caroni,
judgment.
If we had not closed Caroni, hold on. Let me ask the question again.
Industrial court order.
Right, it's an industrial court. So if we did not close Caroni, we would not have had an industrial court order to say we have to give 2-acre plots and 1 residential plot and so on.
For the people who are
And it would not have cost $10 billion. Right, thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Hospitalis, Chairman, could you share with us, I don't know if you have the data available, could you share with this committee whether you can advise what has been the combined subventions granted to Caroni since its closure between 2003 to the present time? Do we have an estimate?
I will have to provide the committee with that information.
Yeah,
I know that we spent in 2018 about 11 million. And off of that 11 million, 7 million were in salaries, so that is 1 check every month. And the other is about 20 checks. So the question I am asking myself is that in terms of personnel and do I need, what sort of functions I need around me to control this 4 million? So with 1 check is 11 million, 1 check going out for 7 million, like 12 checks a year. And then you spend another 400,000 to the security for firm. Very few transactions. So what we have done in Caroni, we have a team. We have people in finance, about 3 or 4 persons in finance, and I ask the auditors every year, what is the state of my controls? And they have told me my controls are extremely robust, and this is why they have not qualified Caroni accounts ever since between 2003, since we were here, to now.
Yes, I think Mr. Hines will make a final input and then I'll ask her.
Thank you. Talking about security, it was observed, and I did absent myself for a short while, so I don't know if this was traversed in my absence, Mr. Chairman, but it has been observed from your reporters that 4 whole aspects of your rolling stock, 4 whole tractors or backhoes or trucks, what were they, went missing?
These were vehicles, harvesters, tractors for the. Caroni was in citrus. Caroni was in citrus, dairy.
Pretty big items.
Yeah,
pretty large items.
Large items, harvesters.
Have they ever been pursued and or recovered?
Before?
Yes.
Well, we lost that on the weekend of closure.
Yes. But have they ever been pursued or recovered?
No.
You mean they just disappeared?
Disappeared. The 4 on the weekend of closure, we lost 4. And since that, we could account for each item.
And finally, of the rolling stock, a large chunk, I think about 1,100 or about 1,400 were auctioned off. Yes. Am I correct?
Yes.
And I understand the principles of an auction, but I have noticed 182 elements of your rolling stock vehicles were done in a direct sale transaction. You sold them directly. And that I take to imply without auction. On what terms were they sold?
Fishbowl on the direct sale.
Generally, on what terms?
How did we sell those 182? How did you sell the 182?
182 pieces.
You sure it's not sugar manufacturing? You all don't know? You all know? You have them here? Yeah.
From 2003 going straight until probably 2007, those that were sold the 182 is because the lifetime of those vehicles, we sold it as scrap. So it wasn't really in a position to be workable. And we could account for those.
All right, thank you very
We
much.
have receipts and we can tell you exactly how it was sold.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah.
Could we get details of those transactions and the approximate values to each one? Yes. Then in addition to that, Mr. Hines raised a very interesting point. The list of articles, equipment that went missing. And could we get a detailed breakdown of those? Because you must have some accounts of those items and the approximate values of each of those pieces of equipment or articles or items that went missing during the period 2003 to the present time. And what did Caroni 1975 Limited do when they discover these items went missing? Did you report it to the police, to the fraud squad, so that some investigation could have been conducted, or was no action taken by the board and management? May I get clarification?
As I said, when Caroni was closed,
Yes.
this board was not in existence yet.
Okay.
Came into office subsequent to closure.
Okay.
This happened before us.
So not under your stewardship? Okay, I understand you.
Can I stick up
No, before you go further, let me just raise two. Tim, just a second, please. I just wanted to ask Mr. Hospitals, I think we need to understand again, from your perspective and the management, do you anticipate a closure date or a closing date, an estimated ballpark date for the complete liquidation and final closure of Caroni? Or are we going to be coming back in the next 5 years dealing with Caroni? Because it's 16 years now since Caroni has closed down. And I know that you did indicate there were some challenges and there still remain some challenges. But could you, from your own experience, indicate when you anticipate, as chairman, this situation would come to a final full stop? Caroni, 1975 Limited.
We were discussing that date way back some 5-6 years ago. But we cannot, because of the industrial court order, the union and ourselves must go to the industrial court with a submission that all the commitments have been met. I would like to do that in the morning. If I can deliver the 4351, the residential service lots. We could always argue, we could always agree that the 1,1200 we can't find agricultural. If they come in, they would get it, but we would have done it. The bungalows do not belong to that industrial court order. The bungalows belong to the monthly paid staff, and the industrial court order govern the daily paid staff. So our mandate is complete when we deliver those residential service lots. At the present time, we took a decision lately that by the end of this year, we will evaluate the position and advance option to the administration, whatever the administration, to determine whether Caroni should move to liquidation with the responsibilities to be assumed by some other state agency, which is an operational state agency. Because at the present time, what we have done, we have brought the staff down from 118 to 37. And we are continuing to bring the staff down because we are stalled and we don't want, we reach a stage where if we don't have these lots, the rationale for existence is not there.
Before Senator Hines, Mr. Hines, could you provide this committee with a copy of the terra firma valuation report on those bungalows? Because you did indicate to this committee that we paid monies to this company called Terra Firma to do an evaluation. Could you provide this?
Of the 142 properties.
Yes, can we get a copy of that? Yeah, Mr. Hines, please.
Only again, Mr. Chairman, just by way of a short historiography, and I hope it is correct. This Caroni, as it then was, it somewhere around 1993, 94, a tripartite committee had acted on Caroni, and part of that action meant that its entire $2 billion worth of debt was written off. This is in the early 90s. And then by year 2000 again, if I'm wrong, you gentlemen, with all the records in front of you, can assist. So it made Caroni bankable again in 93, 94. And by 2000, Caroni had run up $2.6 billion worth of debt again. We saw here this morning that a large part of the $10 billion you spoke about was writing off of about $4 billion in debt. So I can only ask, at that rate, while the chairman sensibly and correctly asked, I think it was Member Gopi Singh, where would we have, how would we have fared? In other words, he was wondering, now this $10 billion largely in gifts to former employees, it may have paled into insignificance if the company had continued running. But I think based on the historiography I just shared with you, by now we might have been about $35 billion in losses and debt. So I would like you, for the benefit of Member Gopi Singh, when you write to us, give an indication based on the trajectory that I just described, what it might have cost to keep it running up until today. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Chair, already remember.
Final say? I'll just ask Dr. Gopi Singh to ask the final question, Mr. Chairman, and then you will have your final say in wrapping up and dealing with some of the concerns that we have outlined. Dr. Gopi Singh.
You mentioned a $4 billion loss. A loss of where and from when to when? What is the $4 billion you speak?
Written off.
Written off. From what?
From the operations of Caroni, the debt finance Caroni operations pre-2003.
Up to 2003.
Yes.
And that would have been all the years preceding 2003.
Except that before 2003, there was also written off before that.
When? Well, could you provide us with that? Yeah, it was 1993.
You'll appreciate that we.
Well, you have been there 16 years, and I know you have some institutional memory.
And I'll be speculating.
Yeah.
And our staff.
You see, you make a statement. Hold on, Mr. Hospitalis. You made a statement that a $4 billion loss, but you cannot tell us or written off. You cannot tell us a writing off from when to when. Is it 1980 to 2003, or is it 1990 to 2003, or is it 1995 to 2003? So what my colleague, Mr. Hines, is asking you is to give us an appreciation of where that writing off has taken place, over what period of time, you could provide it in writing. So my next one is, you good? All right, okay, fine. We can always ask.
Mr. Hospitalis, I know that we have been here for the time now. It's 12:41. I would like to ask, before the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry gives a summary or final remarks, a number of questions have been raised by Mr. Hines, Dr. Gopi Singh. You may wish to respond to those questions if you have the answers, and at the same time, give us your closing remarks at this stage. I now invite you.
This mandate, which was established for Caroni in industrial court order, had been a time-consuming exercise. But it has produced significant results, and this has been due to a coordinated and collective effort by Caroni and its small group of employees. We started in 2004 with an employee base of 118. We were down in 2018 June to 54, and in December, we closed at 37. Our annual cost was 11.5 million, and of that amount, I just remarked it was 7 million. So the number of transactions is very limited, and the auditors have indicated to us that our controls are sound and robust. By any standards, such an exercise has never been undertaken in the history of this country. Leaving aside the processing issues involved in the payment of monetary benefits, we embarked on a comprehensive communication program, utilizing PA systems, correspondence, post office, pullouts from the various newspapers. And through this process, we provided counseling and financial advisory service to all those employees who wish to avail themselves of this program. We collaborated with 70 organizations which organized through 2003 and 2007, 4,485 courses of training. We sold 1,156 pieces of equipment to the daily paid employees. We were able to place on a map for 7246 applicants their chosen residential service lots. We ascertain now, we can inform that we have shared with them 4274 leases, and we cannot find 230 as yet. We have 4351 outstanding. We did the same thing with the agricultural leases. We issued 6,005. We cannot find about 1114. We conducted the surveys of 142 bungalows. We had them valued, and we made the offer to the employees. It's in court, and we hope that could be settled soon. We have undertaken a number of assignments for government, which we didn't discuss here at all, including the land tenancy regulation program, in which we had to identify the tenancy data, the spatial data occupied by farmers from whom Caroni was purchasing sugarcane and to whom agricultural leases would be given. We have done that for the government, and we have transferred the records to the Commission of State Lands. We have managed European funding, on which 400 million was drawn down for balance of payment support. We executed a land delivery program for the Ministry of Agriculture, in which they asked us to identify land for 6 small farms and 8 large farms, and we handed it over to the Ministry of Agriculture. we continue to provide assistance to the Sugar Heritage and Museum project. There's a great deal to be done still. The completion of the residential estates is an important point. And we should be in a position with the solution to the bungalows to have those compounds distributed among the regional corporations for them to provide communal service instead of currently doing it. In the meantime, we are assisting the pensioners to ensure that their records are coordinated with the National Insurance Board so that when they go for their pensions, the National Insurance Board don't have to ask for what is your final salary on these things. We are transferring the rolling stock to the owners, coordinated with the Commission of Transport. And we are following up our litigation issues. And in the final analysis, we only own 17 estates under head leases from the government. All the land is owned by government. All the bungalows owned by government. And we receive instructions from the government and deliver accordingly. And thank you very much for this.
Madam Permanent Secretary, you have the final say.
Thank you, Chair. The Ministry of Finance's objective is to wind up Caroni 1975 Limited. This particular winding up has been unique, is unique. And it is unique. One of the factors it's unique, it's because it's driven by the Industrial Relations Order of 2003. And that is grounded in the whole taking care of the stakeholders who are directly affected by the decision to wind up Caroni 1975 Limited. We spoke about the length of time and we spoke about the cost. And the length of time is a factor of how these winding up of these enterprises could be prolonged by actions taken in the courts, of which we have no control. But we press on, and we press on as efficiently and as effectively given the circumstances. So we have taken, we have listened to your views and we have taken your suggestions on board, and we would hope to have at least a framework to at least be more transparent in the whole process of winding up of these companies. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members.
Thank you very, very much. And may I, on behalf of the Public Accounts Enterprises Committee, record our sincerest thanks to the team from the Ministry of Finance, Investments Division, the officials headed by the chairman of Caroni 1975 Limited, Mr. Jerry Hospitalis, and the management team headed by Mr. Lionel Wayne. We'd like to thank members of the media, members of the public for following these proceedings. And we'd like to, at this time, wish you a very safe journey back to your respective destinations. This meeting is now suspended. Thank you very much.
This is the Parliament Channel and Parliament Radio 105.5 FM. For most of the time, people are not interested in politics because they're interested in their own
lives. They want the politicians to do their job so they can do their job and look after their families and so on and so forth. They don't have time to be interested. They're relying on other people to be interested. The other people that they are relying on are very often the fourth estate. They're relying on civil society, they're relying on the media to tell them what they should think and what they should be worried about in terms of their politicians and their political structures. I would say that in the UK that works fairly well.
The necessary part of democracy, the participation of the public. The further the public is away from the decision makers, the weaker your democracy is. And in Canada, we encourage full participation, and we receive it, especially on issues that are of not just general importance, but of vital importance to the public. They want to be involved, and we welcome that.
And through our select committees of Parliament, we invite members of the public to come and make oral presentation and written submission on the bills which are before Parliament.
We bring witnesses to committees. We have, if we're studying legislation, so we'll have experts in the field. We'll have people that are strongly for the legislation. We'll invite people who are strongly against the legislation. We'll bring in academics, government officials, anyone who might, and citizens, anyone who might want to weigh in and influence the decision on how we look at the legislation or how we look at a report.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning. My interest in the climate change debate was triggered in 1998.
Public engagement is critical. And of course, you can't have everyone that lines up to become a witness, but we're very open in the breadth of experiences that we welcome into committees to become witnesses. Senators aren't supposed to be expert at the subject matter, so we require experts in the subject matter, and that would be witnesses.
The media should also feel that responsibility to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to, okay, if